Hello, Kazoom Fowler. I decided to do a video response to your video because your question is not stupid at all. In fact, this is something that I used to ponder a lot myself before I became an anarchist. What kind of society would be more reasonable, something that would appeal to everyone. And I think what you're describing is called direct democracy. Although, based on what you said on voting, I think it would be just direct democracy, but on a digital platform. And direct democracy is essentially a type of government where there is no middle person. There are no representatives as we have in our current society, which is representative democracy. There are no politicians. There are no middle people who you go and carry off your vote to in order for them to enact what you want for yourself. I feel like also for everyone to have to vote, that I don't even think that is a ridiculous idea, because that's also something that I used to think about. And I think the way that would work is if all youth had a chance to emancipate themselves legally at the age of 16, which is possible now. The only problem is that in order to be emancipated, you have to be in some sort of terrible situation, or like an abusive situation with neglectful parents, or just it has to be. It's really negative right now in order to get emancipation, or you have to be like running away from home and you don't know where your parents are, and it's just like a bad situation. But I feel like if all youth had the opportunity to emancipate themselves legally at 16, to make that choice, that would be a good way for youth to vote at a younger age. Also, something that I had thought about a long time ago, maybe back when I was like in 10th grade or something, I thought, it would be really cool if everyone could vote, and, if younger people can vote basically by attaching their vote to their parents, or attaching their vote to the adult who seems to agree most with their own view on the policies, even if it is, not well understood or well developed. Because I think children should have the opportunity to know about political issues and to vote. And I think that would be a really good way to get citizens really prepared for understanding their country, for understanding their nations, and even global politics, because increasingly our society is becoming a global society. Now, you mentioned also that it would not work necessarily, that it would be a failure or chaotic. And given the little that you said in the video, that's probably true. However, I think that there are some key things that get in the way of it working that, if you take those things out, it might have a better chance of succeeding. The first one is, if the politics and, deciding on voting and all of those matters, if that remains on a national scale or even a statewide scale, that is a recipe for failure. Because we live even in cities now that are populated by the millions. And I feel like a major impediment to the kind of government we have now, and even if we had a direct democracy, an impediment is the amount of people that are living in places. And so, we count on these representatives to, meet the needs of millions of people, thousands of people, and, people's needs don't get met. Not everyone agrees on things the same way. Not everyone has the same outlook. So, as long as it remains on a nationwide scale or just a large platform, that is a recipe for failure. Also, another problem is if people remain distracted or uninformed by corporate news, advertising, and the celebrity culture that we have today. And I feel like that's just as big, if not bigger, than the population problem because, a lot of people don't vote in the first place because they don't feel like their vote counts for one thing, which it kind of doesn't. It kind of doesn't because, the political class will do what they want in order to get monetary gain. So votes don't really count these days as much as they used to. But also I think that so many citizens are distracted and caught up in these bubbles of entertainment, for most of their waking moments, that there isn't really time to step back and understand what's affecting their communities, what's affecting the whole nation, what's affecting their state. A lot of people who watch corporate news probably have no idea of like all the prisoner strikes that are going on. A lot of issues around institutionalized racism or, the immigration bill that's being proposed that will drastically militarize the south border of the United States. There's just so many problems that people are unaware of because we have this culture where entertainment is king, where celebrity life is news, which it really shouldn't be, and where you can just tune out and go play games on your smartphone. So that's a problem right there. I'm not saying that we should get rid of technology or anything like that, but at least, the news stations that we have now either need to be abolished or they need to change their platform in order to actually focus on things that matter. Stop reporting on celebrity news. We need to outlaw paparazzi or, just do some sort of, amendment or measure to where that becomes illegal. Because, that's just like one of the biggest distractions that we have today. And lastly, I think that institutionalized schools should be decentralized and abolished. Because, going back to the youth, most of us have grown up in a school system that is totalitarian. It's pretty much a dictatorship where you have no say in what you learn and your teachers, in, the policies of the school. You have no say in the school rules, and you just basically do as you're told or face arrest if you are, if you skip school. You face arrest for truancy. There are increasingly more police in urban schools, especially in areas where there are people of color. There are metal detectors, and really school is like a prison. And the only difference is if you go to an affluent school where there are more clubs and extracurriculars and, cool things to do and the teachers are nice and everything. But at the end of the day, you still have to do as you're told. And it doesn't model democracy at all. It doesn't model any sort of political freedom at all. So the fact that we grow up in those kinds of systems is a major impediment to the kind of society that you're talking about, or to a more egalitarian, anarchical society, which would benefit people a lot more than what we have now. So, that needs to be gotten rid of because that is a major distraction for kids. I remember tuning out in high school and even middle school and before then because the work was boring. I had no say in what I wanted to do. There was always the threat of detention. There were always security guards watching our bags. There were school lockdowns just for not obeying the principal and not obeying teachers or having trash on the ground or whatever. That is a pretty major issue too. But I think that what you're saying, because definitely an anarchical society, because people don't understand anarchy, that's not really in the works right now. But what you're saying seems a lot more reasonable, actually. So yeah, I think that it has a chance at success as long as we remove those pediments and make it a localized sort of government where, you can have the issues voted on based on how your community functions. Which that can be considered chaotic too, because we would still be able to move about in other parts of the United States and other countries and different things like that, where the laws will be totally different. But I feel like it's worth it to at least try to have that kind of freedom.